Good afternoon everyone, or good morning, good evening, wherever you are. This is going to be a 17-week in Australia update, and I'm in a completely different energy to when I posted my previous videos about this apartment and my life in Australia. And it's just taken a few days for me to take myself away from the apartment, come back with a completely fresh set of eyes, different mindset. And I've come back from a place of just pure love and gratitude, and I feel completely differently about everything. And I wanted to show you what I did over the last few days that has helped me to change my mindset. And also I've thought about all of the factors that perhaps contributed to me wanting to leave very abruptly and not being able to handle things like the noise or the bathroom. So I wanted to share those updates with you, and I just wanted to say thank you also for all of your comments. And I also wanted to acknowledge and thank those of you who called me out on my, YouTube, on my bullshit, and called me out on my complaining and on my whinging, because that's not the person that I want to be. And although I look back over those videos and I can see that some points were valid, I can also really acknowledge the fact that I definitely wasn't in a place of gratitude. I was in a place of lack, not having enough, not having the ideal apartment, and not seeing what was right in front of me. And although sometimes things that we have are not perfect, if we're not happy with what we have right in front of us, even if it's not perfect, then we're never going to be happy with what's next, right? So I've really taken a lot of time over the last few days to rest, to come back to myself. And I think the person who I want to be is a person who is appreciative for everything in life, even if sometimes the universe can throw us obstacles or can throw us things that are a little bit challenging. But those are opportunities for growth, and those are opportunities to work on our mindset and to work on gratitude. So I'm super happy that I'm back in the apartment, actually. I never thought I would say that. And I spent the last 4 nights in a hotel in Miami, and I vlogged that, and I just wanted to show you what happened. But let me just give you some updates. If you're new to this channel, my name's Bex. I'm a UK medic, so I'm a PGY2. I went to med school later on in life, so started at 37, graduated at 41, did my F1 year in the UK, and then moved over here to the Gold Coast. And I've just spent the last 15 weeks pretty much working in the emergency department at both hospitals on the Gold Coast. And then next week I'm going to be moving to my next rotation. But in this video, I wanted to tell you what's happened over the last few days, what happened with the accommodation, what happened whilst I was in that hotel, and just give you a bit of an update on where my mindset is right now and my plans for the next 12 months. Because since I posted those 3 videos a few days ago, everything has changed, everything. And it's interesting because the external environment, or the external factors that were making me very overwhelmed and stressed, haven't changed. Nothing has changed, but my mindset towards those external factors has changed massively. So let me take you back. I viewed this apartment after a night shift probably about a month ago, and immediately when I came into the apartment, I didn't get an intuitive feeling of like, this is not right. I felt a little bit rushed. I felt like, yeah, I can make this do. It's not my ideal home, but I could see myself living here for 12 months. So there wasn't this immediate gut feeling or this heavy feeling of you are not meant to live here. It was more kind of convincing myself that I could make this work. And I truly believe that this was the right decision to move into this apartment, and I'll tell you why in a second. I stayed in the sublet, moved into an Airbnb, and then I was pretty much working 16 long days back to back in the emergency department, with 2 days. One day to move out of the sublet into the Airbnb, and then another day to move out of the Airbnb into this property. And it was just quite a chaotic day. I filmed that day where lots of things kind of went wrong. I heard the noise for the first time, and I thought maybe I've made a bad decision here. But I didn't really take into consideration at the time that I had pretty much just worked, by that point, I think 10 days in the emergency department, pretty much back-to-back 10-hour shifts. And you can relate if you're a medic, ED is very intense. And I think when we're at the point where we're already overwhelmed or fatigued with work, and then in our personal life, additional stresses come into the equation, it's more difficult to handle, where you don't have that same ability to perhaps take a step back and see it from this perspective of, I can deal with this, it's not that much of a big deal. But when you're tired and overwhelmed and stressed with work, anything extra that comes in really stresses you out to another level. And I think that's what started to happen from move-in day. The day after I moved in, I went straight back to work for a long day and then 4 night shifts. And I think it just kind of tipped me over the edge, and I completely went into this mindset of lack, almost, I'm gonna say victim mentality, you know? I don't wanna deal with the noise, I don't wanna deal with the bathroom, I want everything to be perfect. And I think if I would have moved in during this week, when I had a week off, I would have probably been able to deal with those factors in a more compassionate way, in a more patient way, but also in a more logical way, right? Just because there is a little bit of noise or the bathroom needs a deep clean, it doesn't mean to say that I have to break the lease and run. It just means that I have a few challenges to overcome at the beginning of the lease. And now I see it like it's not a big deal. And a few of you mentioned initially, why don't you just get noise cancelling headphones? And you saw my reaction, right? I was like, no, I'm not sitting in my own home with a headset on. But now if you were to suggest that, I'd be like, yeah, that's a solution. Where there's a problem, there's a solution, right? So it's been interesting to kind of take a step back and come into this with a completely different mindset. So what happened is I finished those night shifts, and as I showed you on the videos, there was a lot of noise and I just didn't feel settled in the apartment. My expectation was very similar to when I moved into my apartment in the UK, where I walked in, had my lovely cat Clara, and it felt like I landed, like this is my home. And I had this expectation that as soon as I moved to Australia, I would find my dream partner, I would find my dream home, life would be perfect. And I had to have a few words with myself over the last few days to say, it's not going to be perfect and things take time, and to have those expectations is so unrealistic. And it may take another year or 2 for me to find my perfect home. It may take another 5 years for me, you know, to meet the love of my life. It's about patience. And I think when you're a medic, when you work in this industry, there's this emphasis on always just push, push, push. What's next? You know, it's always like looking at the next step rather than saying, what do I have right now that I can be grateful for? Because if we're continuously looking at the next step, we miss out on what's happening right now. And I think, again, this week away has been a reminder to just say, actually, I'm really lucky to have this place in Australia. I'm lucky to be in Australia. I'm lucky to be working as a doctor in Australia, and I have a roof over my head, and it's not perfect, it's not my dream home, but it's clean, and I can make this space my sanctuary. It doesn't matter what's happening outside, I can make this my own. And if there is a bit of noise, which there hasn't been over the last few days, then it's okay, I can deal with it. It's not going to affect my quality of life long term. I can speak to the neighbours. The agent has already been kind enough to speak to the body corporate. So it's in hand, you know, I don't need to run. So what happened was, after those final night shifts, I came back, it was very noisy, and I think I just hit my breaking point, and I thought, I just can't deal with this. And again, when you're extremely tired from work and you have all of this stress and your nervous system is already on fire, anything else that is kind of thrown your way it's very difficult to deal with. It's almost like it takes you over the edge, and you don't have that mental capacity to take a step back and see it. Everything becomes a bigger problem in your own mind than what it actually is. And all you want to do is run away from the problem, right? So anyway, after not sleeping for, I think it was about 26 hours, I honestly just needed to leave, because I knew that if I stayed in this apartment, I couldn't see things clearly. And I know that when I start getting into that mindset of lack and not seeing things that are good in my life, I need to have a serious chat with myself, because I need to come back to gratitude. And the only way for me to do that is by withdrawing myself from the situation. I normally check myself in to a hotel or an Airbnb, and I just take the time to do some mindset stuff. And that can be journaling, meditating, walking on the beach. So many ways to come back to our heart, right? Instead of being up here, because when we live from this logical place, and when we're overwhelmed, we forget what it's like to see things from a place of love. And I think that's where I was a few days ago. And what's interesting as well is I was having a cup of coffee one morning at one of the cafes in Miami. And hi Sean, if you're watching, I'm just going to talk about this experience now. And I don't believe that this happened by coincidence, but this lovely guy walked past and he went, "Bex," and I was wearing a baseball cap and my sunglasses, and he went, "Bex, intuitive medic." And I was like, "Yes." And you're always a little bit skeptical, right, when people just stop and talk to you. Not that it happens very often, but, and I was like, "Yeah." And he said, "Oh, my name's Sean and I follow your channel." Anyway, we ended up having a cup of coffee, and he said some things that again brought me back to gratitude, but also made me realize that perhaps just being more patient is probably the solution, and that coming to Australia and 17 weeks in expecting everything to fall into place and to be perfect, it's not realistic. And sometimes I can be quite hard on myself, and if I don't achieve stuff by a certain time, then I can say, this should have happened by now, and if it's not, then what am I doing wrong? And I think it's just a medic thing, isn't it? We're just so harsh on ourselves, because that's the way that you have to be at medical school and as a doctor. But I think the lesson really is have more compassion for yourself. Like, I've literally moved from the UK, and I've found this job, which is incredible, and I found this apartment. Like, I'm doing okay. And it's all right if things still need to be figured out. So the lesson really is always see things that are right in front of you from a place of gratitude, because it really does change everything. And patience and compassion. And there is no need to run every time something doesn't feel perfect, because that's what I've done in the past, if I'm being perfectly honest. You know, if something isn't in line with my blueprint or in line with the way that I want it to be, I'm kind of like, oh, let's just move on to the next thing. But I think the lesson here is there's no point in, you know, thinking about moving to Perth, because I could get to Perth and things could be exactly the same. The Gold Coast is amazing and I love my life here. So it's about seeing what I've accomplished in the last 17 weeks alone, right? I've found an apartment, I've bought all the furniture, I've worked full-time in ED, which has been super intense. I've worked in a brand new country as a medic. So I think I'm doing okay. And taking that step back and being in that hotel and then walking back into this space and going to Kmart yesterday and buying some plants. I'll give you a tour in a second, because now that I'm sat here and it's quiet and I have plants and I have, you know, stuff that wasn't here before, I'm actually starting to feel like I'm settling in slowly but surely, and maybe it is just gonna take a little bit of time. So in the previous video, I was telling you how my plan was to break the lease, and I found a villa in Miami, and I'd also had this Airbnb as a long-term option. And again, it's funny how the universe will kind of guide you onto the right path. And if you're thinking that you want to run and all of those other doors just shut, it's an indication for me that I just need to stay and be patient, right? So when I was away, I received a rejection email for the villa that I'd seen in Miami. And then I'd also received a message from the landlady of the Airbnb saying that it wouldn't be possible to rent the Airbnb long term because she had some family members coming over to stay. So those options were just kind of off the table. And in that moment, I had this realization that perhaps I just needed to stay and not run. Because what if I find another apartment on the Gold Coast? And yes, ideally, it would be great to live in a detached house with no neighbors and a brand new, bathroom. You know what? It's not going to happen right now, and that's absolutely fine. This space is absolutely perfect for now. It's a stepping stone. I'm not going to be here forever, and I'm very grateful to have a lease in Australia because I applied for, that other apartment and I got rejected. So the fact that I have a home, I have an address, I'm very, very, very lucky and very grateful. It's really just pulled me back and forced me to look at what I have already. Because if I would have already moved out and not been able to find anywhere, that would have been a problem, a big problem. So I decided to do everything that I can to make this place my home. And I've spent a lot on furniture. I will give you a tour. I'm actually really excited. I'm still missing stuff, like the kitchen table needs to be built tomorrow. And then I've got other furniture arriving from Temple and Webster over the next few weeks. But it definitely has a good vibe when you just sit in the energy and when you're not bombarded with like music. But they have the right to play music, and I think it was probably just a one-off and they were having a party. I don't think that's going to happen every day. And if they want to play music, like you guys have said, they can play music. It's a compound at the end of the day. And I love music. I love house music. This is what I listen to when I go to the gym, right? It was just a little bit tricky coming off 14 shifts in a row, and I was literally sat there going, I just need quiet. But it's unrealistic to think that I'm going to be able to come home every day and sit in silence like a library. I get that. And I appreciate the fact that if I want that, I have to move out of the compound. So I am extremely grateful to have this apartment. And I think just taking a few days away and not working and allowing my nervous system to just calm down, to have a few days by the pool. I went to get my hair done today, like just to do those things that bring you back into balance, that are so important. But the most important thing that I've worked on is just coming back into my heart space. And rather than always focusing on what this apartment doesn't have or what is wrong with the apartment, I've focused over the last few days on seeing what is good about this place. And this is a really good question to ask yourself. What is good about now? What is good about this apartment? And I could come up with 100 things. It's safe. It's most of the time it's quiet. It has a pool 5 meters from my doorstep. I have my own coffee machine here. I have an amazing sofa. Like I could go on. But ultimately, I have a home in Australia, and I don't think moving from one Airbnb to the next for the next, 6 to 12 months is going to do me any good. So that's accommodation. Long story short, I'm back into a very good, positive mindset. And I wanted to also fill you in about what's coming up next and what's happening with work, because a lot is happening. So when I first came over to Australia, I worked for the first 15 weeks in the emergency department. I have 4 shifts left from the 11th of December until the 14th, and that's it. I will not be working in the emergency department anymore, and I don't know really how I feel about it because I was really enjoying those shifts. But it's time to move on to something else. and I'll be working from 8 o'clock in the morning until 4 in the afternoon, Monday to Friday, which I still can't believe, and that's going to be for 5 weeks. And then I have 4 weeks off, 4 weeks annual leave. And then when I come back, I'm going to be working in acute medicine for 10 weeks. I don't know what I'm going to be doing for those 4 weeks. I haven't decided if I'm going to be able to go back to the UK. I don't know if I just want to stay here on the Gold Coast, or maybe do a few trips to maybe Western Australia. I don't know, and I don't really want to think about it right now, because all I want to focus on is just what's happening right here, right now, and making this place a home. And then when I have those 4 weeks off, I finish my last shift, I can make a decision. Okay, what do I want to do? What do I feel like doing? Because there's so much to experience here, right, on the Gold Coast. And I remember those 3 weeks when I first arrived, I had so many options. Like I could go to Tambourine Mountain, Lamington National Park, Springbrook, Byron Bay, Noosa, Brisbane, Sydney. So I might just stay here and do some traveling from the Gold Coast. But I would also really like to see my friends in the UK. So I will keep you up to date anyway. But I just wanted to come back on today and let you know that I'm okay. I wanted to acknowledge you guys for your emails. I ended up turning off the comments on those 3 videos because, understandably so, a lot of you were leaving comments that gave me constructive criticism that I wasn't willing to take on board at the time. But I can absolutely see where you guys are coming from with regards to perhaps complaining a little bit, or maybe not seeing what I have right in front of me. And I think if I were to read those comments right now, I could perhaps take it on board, but at the time I wasn't able to. Although one comment called me the epitome of a whinging pom. And I think that's when I turned off the comments, because I thought, wow, if that's how I'm coming across on YouTube, then I need to have a word with myself, and I need to pull back here, because I do not want to come across like I'm just sat here complaining. That's not the person I want to be. So whoever wrote that, I actually want to thank you, because you were probably right, and I've had a word with myself since. And it's interesting how sometimes taking ourselves away from an environment and doing a little bit of work on our mindset can just bring us straight back into love. And then we see the world from a different perspective, right? We see what's good about our environment, we see what's good about our life, as opposed to finding fault and thinking that things are wrong and things are lacking. So I encourage you to do the same. If you're in a space where perhaps you're looking at what's missing, and there's nothing wrong with wanting to accomplish more or to challenge ourselves, is there? But I think it's pretty dangerous territory when we sit down and when we just focus on what we're lacking. So I will give you a little tour now. I'm very excited. Like I said, I'm still waiting for Marcus, the chap from Airtasker, to come in the morning to build the kitchen table, which is downstairs. And I've got 2 more of these chairs arriving in December from Lounge Lovers. So I'll have the table with the 4 chairs, but I have made some changes, and I want to show you this sofa, because it's like, oh, I bought some cushions and a plant, and let me just show you, and then I'll come back and finish the video. Okay, so this is the living room. This is basically the front door. And then I've put Clara's bowl up here with my keys. So it's almost like acknowledging Clara every single time I come home and I go out the door. And then I've got some nice candles here. Clara, by the way, was my cat. She was like my soulmate, my best mate. She was supposed to come to Australia, but she sadly became really unwell and passed away about 18 months ago. So this is the sofa from Lounge Lovers. The rug is from Temple & Webster. Coffee table is from Cooper & Co. I got this plant pots, and I've ordered this big plant to go in the corner, because I think when you have plants, it just makes it more homely. And then those cushions are from Kmart. I got this peace lily as well from Kmart. No, sorry, from Bunnings yesterday. This mirror I just love so much. It's from Cooper & Co. The chairs are from Lounge Lovers. So yeah, I'll show you tomorrow. Actually, I've got this kitchen table coming here, and then this is the view, which is really lovely. The kitchen, and then you've seen the TV already. Then I've ordered a bookshelf, which is gonna go here with my books. And then tomorrow we're gonna build this storage unit. Sorry, the washing machine is a little bit loud. And then I've just popped loads of plants in the bathroom, and it just makes it feel just a lot nicer, doesn't it? So yeah, this is the bathroom now. And then the spare room at the moment is pretty much empty. And this is my bedroom. I haven't unpacked actually from my trip, but yeah, my new bed is amazing. And then we're just gonna build the bedside table tomorrow. I got this picture as well from Temple & Webster, which is gonna go on the wall tomorrow. And yeah, just having a little bit of light come through, and I've got the fans on. Like, it's good. It's a good little space. So yeah, this is it. Love the sofa so much. It's massive, isn't it? You could fit probably about 10 people on there, I reckon. It's so cool. And I've got aircon, look. So it's nice and chill. I'm very lucky, very, very lucky. And I just find it fascinating how you can be in the exact same environment, the exact same space, but feel completely differently about it depending on where your mindset is at. Either you're coming from a place of lack, or you're coming from a place of love, or you're coming from fear, or you're coming from love. And it's always interesting to me that nothing in our external world has to change. We just have to do the work on our mindset, and then everything in our external world feels and looks different, although nothing actually changes, which is amazing when you think about it, right? Because if you're in a situation that you're not really happy with and you can't change it for whatever reason, you can just change your mindset about it. You can change the way that you're seeing it, and then everything just feels a lot nicer. So I think working on our mindset every day, especially when you start feeling like you're going into victim mode, which I definitely was over the last few days, it's just incredible how things shift. So I will leave this video here. I wanted to just say thank you as well for everybody that has messaged. Yes, the constructive feedback, but also everybody that showed concern, or that has invited me to stay, or you guys have offered me help with waiting for deliveries. Like, thank you, honestly. You don't know me, I don't know you, but I feel yeah, just very lucky to have viewers like yourselves who are, from the looks of things, very good, kind people. And this is the kind of community that I want to build here. And sometimes it's actually nice to have people who are perhaps not as supportive, and who can just dish it out as it is. I'm not saying be mean in the comments, no, but sometimes it's nice to have those reminders that we're shifting out of a positive mindset. So I want to thank you guys for calling me out on that as well. Thank you for being here. I will upload in the next few days a vlog, and that vlog will be kind of showing you what I did to change my mindset over the last 4 days while staying in a hotel in Miami. I documented everything, and hopefully it will help you if you're also perhaps going through a difficult time, how to come back to love, how to come back to gratitude, how to see things from a heart space as opposed to lack. And it only takes a few minutes every single day, and I will share the meditations that I used as well. So I'm going to be staying here most likely until the end of the lease. My contract at this hospital finishes in September, and I received an email today actually from RACGP, which means that I can apply for GP training in March, April next year for a 2027 start. So I'm going to start revising for the exam. Right, I'm going to go make some coffee, unpack my suitcase, and then just spend the rest of the evening watching TV, chilling out in this apartment. Tomorrow I've got the chap coming at 8 o'clock to build the furniture. It's my final day off before I go back to work, but I will see you in the next vlog. Please leave me a comment and yeah, let me know who's watching. Where are you from? Are you in Australia? Are you in the UK? I'd be really interested to know who actually watches these videos. I hope that you enjoyed. Thank you for being here as always. Subscribe so that you don't miss on the vlog that I'm going to post in the next few days, and I will see you very soon. Bye.